Touchdown, Alabama, let's get it.
The process, no one can stop this. How to show in the streets, I bet you can't top this. Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this.
Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this.
The process.
Hey everyone, welcome into a new episode of The Process. I am Justin Smith, the scouting and recruiting analyst for Touchdown Alabama. Thank you guys so much for joining me today on our YouTube page. Be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Subscribers, hit the notification bell. Be notified when we drop content on our YouTube page. Also, be sure to hit us up at 205-984-3222. Hit that number up, leave a recruiting question via voicemail, and it could be answered on The Process in the future, on a future episode, of course. The number will be located on the screen throughout the duration of today's episode. On today's show, we have a lot to talk about as the Crimson Tide are expected to have a humongous weekend on the recruiting trail for their March Junior Day. A long list of 5-star recruits are expected to be in Tuscaloosa, along with some 4-star, 3-star guys who the Crimson Tide really like in the 2023 recruiting class. I will also talk about some updates that I was able to obtain at the Under Armour Next Camp in Atlanta on Sunday, and also talk about a couple of other updates surrounding some top Crimson Tide targets in the 2023 recruiting class. But we're going to dive right into things, starting with Kobe Keenum, a 2023 offensive lineman out of Marshall Bible School in Florence, Alabama, currently standing at 6'4", weighing nearly 300 pounds. I think he weighs 292 pounds at the moment. Had an opportunity to see him in action again at the Under Armour Next Camp in Atlanta on Sunday, and he told me that he was receiving some renewed interest from the Crimson Tide. He's actually been on campus a couple of different times. Alabama has hosted him a few times in the past. Recently got on the phone with Nick Saban and the Crimson Tide's new offensive line coach, Eric Walford. Of course, Walford was once the offensive line coach at Kentucky, and he had a relationship with Keenum when he was with the Wildcats. Nick Saban saw Keenum's film recently along with Walford. Saban said he likes his film, said he feels that he's a mean, nasty offensive lineman, and they want to get him on campus June 1st for camp to see what he can do in person. So he's a guy to pay attention to in the future. In terms of his recruitment, he holds more than 30 offers at the moment, so a lot of programs are going after him, including Arkansas, Wisconsin. Schools across the country are going after Kobe Keenum at the moment. The Crimson Tide will hopefully get him on campus on June 1st for camp. He's looking to narrow down his recruitment during the summer, hopefully commit in August, so he's a guy to just pay attention to as things move forward with the Crimson Tide in this 2023 recruiting class, specifically in the offensive line group. Speaking of the offensive line group for the Crimson Tide in the 2023 recruiting class, Olaus Alinen, who actually has an official visit set to the University of Alabama for this summer. Remember, he told us a couple of weeks ago that he was 100% sure he was going to go to Tuscaloosa for an official visit. It looks as if he could possibly get to Tuscaloosa before this summer. He told me today that he's actually considering and thinking about coming to Tuscaloosa in April. He told me that he would give me some more details once he has finalized a couple of other things. Of course, Olaus Alinen is a 6'7" offensive lineman who currently plays his high school football in Connecticut, but he's originally from Finland, moved to the United States I think a couple of months before this last season began, and has made a transition to the United States. Of course, his recruitment has taken off after playing 1 year of high school football in America, and the Crimson Tide are considered one of his top schools. He told me that Alabama was at the top of his recruitment after he visited in November and picked up an offer from the Crimson Tide in November as well. So Olaus Alinen would definitely be a name to pay attention to. I think we have talked about him a lot over the last couple of episodes of The Process, so we'll continue to discuss the Finland product as we move forward with the Crimson Tide recruiting multiple top-tier offensive linemen in the 2023 recruiting class, but they are also going after some top defensive linemen, including top defensive end, 5-star Jayden Wayne out of Washington, who told me that he will be on the campus of the University of Alabama on April 2nd for an unofficial visit. He did visit Alabama during the season when the Crimson Tide took on Southern Miss. He plans to be back in Tuscaloosa this spring. Of course, Jayden Wayne considers the Crimson Tide one of his top programs. He's similar to a lot of these guys like Olaus, like Kobe Keenum. He wants to make a decision before his senior season begins, hopefully try to at least narrow down his recruitment during the summer. So Jayden Wayne is a guy who wants to make a commitment, wants to make a commitment most likely in the fall if things fall into place in terms of taking official visits during the summer. So Jayden Wayne out of Washington, a long defensive end, guy who possesses that prototypical size that you want to see out of an outside linebacker, specifically within the Crimson Tide's defensive scheme. So Wayne is going to be a guy we are going to talk about constantly because he's really interested in the Crimson Tide. Alabama's wide receiver coach Harmon Wiggins had an opportunity to go out to his high school in Tacoma, Washington, and check on him at Lincoln High School. And Jayden Wayne said he felt that the love was real from the Crimson Tide. The fact that Harmon Wiggins came all the way out to Washington really spoke volumes to Wayne in terms of the Crimson Tide's interest in him. So Jayden Wayne, 5-star defensive end. We will consistently talk about him. Like I said, you guys can check out our interview with Jayden Wayne over at touchdownalabama.com on our site as well. Alabama is also expected to host another 5-star recruit in April. On April 8th, they will host 5-star wide receiver Brandon Inniss out of American Heritage High School in Plantation, Florida. He was originally set to unofficially visit Alabama this weekend for their March Junior Day event, but he canceled that visit. He's visiting another school this weekend, but he will return to Tuscaloosa on April 8th. The Crimson Tide will continue to try to recruit this fantastic talent, an excellent route runner, and all-around athlete out of Plantation, Florida. Did a little bit of everything for American Heritage this past season. Played quarterback, played wide receiver, played quarterback for several games. So that is something that you do not really see out of a lot of guys who is playing wide receiver and quarterback and still considered a 5-star wide receiver. So Brandon Inniss is an all-around athlete who the Crimson Tide will continue to try to go after. Like I said on the last episode of the process, I feel that the Tide's defensive back coach in Florida area recruiter Travaris Robinson will play a huge role in Alabama's push for Brandon Inniss, along with the Tide's wide receiver coach Harmon Wiggins. For this next prospect that we are going to discuss, we are going to go back to the defensive line group, also going to go back to the state of Alabama and talk about Hewitt Trustfield, 4-star defensive lineman Hunter Osborne in the 2023 recruiting class. He's set to unofficially visit Clemson this weekend, but he will be back in Tuscaloosa next weekend after earning an offer from the Crimson Tide in January. He talked with me at the Under Armour Next camp in Atlanta on Sunday. He told me that he was continuing to build his relationship with the Crimson Tide's defensive line coach Freddie Roach. In terms of his relationship with Alabama's entire coaching staff, he told me that it was getting stronger. He has a previous relationship with Eric Walford during his time at Kentucky. He talked about how he has been in contact with him since he moved from Kentucky to Alabama as well. So the 4-star defensive lineman will be in Tuscaloosa next weekend. He told me that he's excited to get back down, continue to try to build his relationship with Alabama's coaches in person. We're going to stay on the defensive side of the football, stay on the defensive front, and continue to talk about some of the Crimson Tide's top targets in this 2023 recruiting class as we turn our attention to Xavier McLeod, who recently picked up an offer from the Tide. The 6'4", 300-pound defensive lineman out of Camden High School in Camden, South Carolina, was set to visit Alabama this weekend, but he's actually rescheduled his visit to March 26th. I saw him in action for the first time on Sunday. He was really impressive, explosive first step, was able to win most of his one-on-one battles at that Under Armour camp. Be sure to check out his highlights and other Alabama top targets highlights on our YouTube page as we were able to collect footage from that event. But he told me that he's looking forward to seeing what little things stand out to him about the Alabama football program during his visit on March 26th. His offer actually came from Nick Saban. He told me that he feels it is an honor to receive an offer from Saban, and he said it's also just a great blessing to get an offer from a program like Alabama. You guys check out my full interview with Xavier McLeod over at touchdownalabama.com. But those are the recruiting updates I wanted to talk about. Now we're going to turn our attention to this humongous weekend for the Crimson Tide on the recruiting trail for their March Junior Day, as we're going to bring up a graphic of the 5-star recruits who are currently expected to be in Tuscaloosa this weekend. These are just the 5-star recruits. The Crimson Tide are expected to host several more guys on this weekend, but these are some of these 5-star prospects who are expected in Tuscaloosa. Just taking a look at this list, you have some guys you definitely need to pay attention to, including Malik Bryant, the 5-star linebacker who played his junior season at IMG Academy. He's transferring back to his original high school for his his senior season. You also have Tony Mitchell, the 5-star defensive back out of Thompson High School in Alabaster, Alabama. The Crimson Tide have a commitment from 5-star defensive back Jaleel Hurley. I'm pretty sure they want to pick up Tony Mitchell to go along with Jaleel Hurley in that secondary. Another guy who will be on the campus of the University of Alabama this weekend is 3-star offensive lineman Xavier McLeod out of Anniston High School in Anniston, Alabama. He's verbally committed to the Georgia Bulldogs at the moment, but he will return to Tuscaloosa this weekend after unofficially visiting Alabama in January as well. So the Crimson Tide will get the Georgia commit back on campus, had an opportunity to catch up with him after a very impressive showing at the Under Armour camp as well. He won the Offensive Lineman MVP award. He was very impressive during that particular camp. Got rave reviews from coaches, from media, from the media that were there. He just really stood out because he was very vocal during the one-on-one sessions, constantly going back and forth with guys. Really passionate during that particular one-on-one battles, and I really like what I saw from Xavier McLeod during that particular camp. But like I said, we'll be back in Tuscaloosa. He told me that he's been in constant contact with Coach Saban, the Crimson Tide's new offensive line coach, Eric Warford. Said that he's in constant contact with Coach Warford via phone calls and via text. He told me that he feels Alabama wants him real bad. With the Georgia Bulldogs losing their offensive line coach recently, with him retiring, he said he feels that impacts his recruitment slightly. Said he feels he committed to the Georgia Bulldogs, not to a coach, so he's still verbally committed to Georgia at the moment, but he is looking forward to visiting Alabama this weekend. He'll also be back in Georgia during this month. He will also take a visit to Tennessee, so he is keeping his recruitment open at the moment. The Alabama Crimson Tide are pushing for Xavier McLeod at Anniston High School as they continue to recruit, like I said, multiple top offensive linemen in this 2023 recruiting cycle. Malik Bryant, I talked about him a couple of minutes ago. I feel he's a guy to pay attention to this weekend. Currently standing at 6'2", weighing 235 pounds. Most recruiting sites have him listed as an edge rusher or defensive end. He's built like a linebacker, so he's one of those hybrid guys. He could be an edge rusher at the next level. He could stand up at inside linebacker. Very effective in space, can cover running backs out of the backfield. He can cover slot wide receivers pretty well as well. Had an opportunity to see him play when IMG Academy took on Auburn last season. He was very effective off the edge. He plays under control. This is a guy who seems to be in control of every body movement. He does not rush to get out of his lane. He's just very patient in terms of his attack. So I really like Malik Bryant. He's a very intriguing prospect. Nick Saban visited his high school a couple of months ago when he was on the recruiting trail, visiting multiple prospects across the country. So the Crimson Tide really liked his 5-star linebacker out of South Florida, as the Crimson Tide was trying to recruit multiple guys from Florida during this 2023 recruiting class. But not only in Florida, we all know how loaded the state of Alabama is in this 2023 recruiting class. They want to recruit some of the top prospects inside the state as well, and Tony Mitchell is one of those guys. The 5-star defensive back out of Thompson High School is expected to be in Tuscaloosa this weekend as well. Taking a look at what Mitchell brings to the table, I feel his natural position is at safety. I think he is a ball hawk, a willing tackler, a guy who can make some very impressive tackle because he has a pretty much filled out frame at the moment. He carries a nice frame. He knows how to make some big hits. Great coverage skills, can go man to man. Like I said, I think he's at his best when he's roaming at free safety. Was on that talented Thompson defense this past season. I think they had multiple shutouts this past season when they won another state championship. He's expected to compete for another state championship with the Thompson Warriors team on next season. Take a look at Mitchell's recruitment. I think he is keeping everything pretty open at the moment with programs like Florida showing love to him, Auburn, the in-state program. With the state of Alabama being so loaded, you know that the Auburn Tigers are going to try to be in a lot of these recruitments with the Crimson Tide. I think this is great that Alabama is getting him back on campus, especially with their defensive back coaching change. We all know Nick Saban coaches the defensive back group as well. I'm pretty sure that holds a lot of weight, but I think it is important that Tony Mitchell is getting back on campus with Javaris Robinson being the Crimson Tide's new cornerbacks coach. So that is what I wanted to talk about on today's episode of The Process. Like I said, we had a lot to get to, but the Crimson Tide expected to have a humongous recruiting weekend. A lot of things have happened since our last show as well, but thank you guys so much for joining me today on The Process. Be sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Subscribers, hit the notification bell, be notified when we drop content on our YouTube page. Then head over to touchdownalabama.com. Pick up your subscription today. With that subscription, you will be able to read all of our subscriber-only articles, get your hands on our yearly print magazine issue, also get an opportunity to read our in-depth scouting reports on each child commit and each recruiting class. Then head over to the Google Play Store if you have that Android device. Download the Touchdown Alabama app. My Apple users download the Touchdown Alabama app in the Apple App Store as well. But thank you guys so much for joining me today. I am Justin Smith, the Scouting and Recruiting Analyst for Touchdown Alabama.
Process.